Hi, everybody. I used to be a professional moderator, so this is pretty easy for me. Well, let's start at the beginning with Greg Daniels, the creator of the American version. Does that qualifier drive you crazy?
No, the beginning is clearly years before I came along, and the actual creators of the show were Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant from England. So.
Yes. What was the development process like of the show, and how were you brought into it?
Well, they had a show. I got a tape of it from my agent and watched it and thought it was a really cool, brilliant show, and didn't really think it would ever be on American television, but I thought it'd be a cool meeting to take, just to meet those guys. And then it turned out that they were big fans of American television in general, and specifically of The Simpsons, and that they had really liked an episode that I had written of The Simpsons, and we kind of got along. And eventually I was hired to adapt their work.
And then, Steve, at what point did you come into the process? Because this show is so sort of dependent on your character.
I still haven't come into the process. Well, I auditioned like everybody else, and the auditions were very different than any other show I'd ever auditioned for. They were more of a workshop, and you never got to see, generally when you get to a point, a network audition, when there will be a bunch of people from the network sort of weighing in on how it's going. This was very unlike that. It was just Ken Kwapis and the other actors and a camera, and he really shot the audition like a documentary. So that was sort of my first taste as to what it would be like. But I met with Greg and we talked briefly before I auditioned, probably a week or so before. But I had never seen the show. I'd only heard how great it was. And I didn't watch it for the sole purpose that I heard it was so great and that Ricky was so fantastic that I would have an inclination to copy him if I watched it. And essentially I'd try to emulate what he did, and I wanted to try to go in with as clean a slate as I could.
Did you not watch the English one?
I won't watch it until we're done with this series.
Oh, you've never seen any of them?
No, because I know he'll be so great it'll make me sick. So I sort of.
Well, then, as the cast built, I mean, how was the cast built? Sort of in what, like, how is it, how are the spaces filled, and sort of what kind of timing?
Steve actually was the first person suggested for the role, and we said, "Oh, that sounds great. Let's just hire our casting director first, and then we'll take a meeting as soon as she's on board." And Allison Jones was the casting director, who cast Freaks and Geeks, and I was very interested in working with her after Freaks and Geeks because I thought that was the best cast TV show I had seen in years and everything. So we managed to get her interested in the project. I think the first person that we hired was BJ, and BJ was a great stand-up comedian, and still is, and I had seen him and thought he was a great person to have, and then turned out he was also a comedy writer, so we hired him as a writer and an actor, and that started the mini tradition of writer-performers that we had. And then I guess the next person I think was Ken Kwapis, who joined the team, who was our director, and would be great if he was here. Directed the pilot and many of the great first episodes, and I had really been interested to hire because he had started Larry Sanders, and the shooting style in Larry Sanders and the kind of spirit of that show I thought would be good to have somebody like that on board. And then as Steve pointed out, we did a lot of screen tests.
With a cast like this, I mean, so much of the writing seems to be tailored to the personalities of the people, and it seems, and I think it's one of the strengths of the show, is that everybody seems to be speaking in a voice that even, at least to us sitting at home, seems like their own.
I remember the leap that we made when we did the batch of episodes 2 through 6 were very different. I think the pilot was very strong and got us on the air, but after that, when the staff got together and started breaking the rest of the stories, having seen Steve Carell and Jenna and John and Rain, and caught glimpses of all these other people, it was easier to picture how, even if Steve was ignorant of Ricky's, what was different between Ricky and what he ended up doing, we could picture Steve in the role and not Ricky. And it became much easier to write, and sort of little nuances or quirks of the actors could become quirks of the characters.
I think the writer-performer thing is a big deal, and that was something that got us into trouble often, in the sense that from the writer's room, it would get severely depopulated in the middle of the season when BJ and Mindy and Paul were all on stage, so that would be tough. But I think that the good thing about it is that people who, there was a lot of co-mingling of the two groups, and my experience with bad TV is that often with bad TV, there's two camps, and the writers don't trust the actors, and the actors don't trust the writers.
Right. Well, Paul, can you talk about that? Like, was there the difficulty of being a writer-performer? I mean, is it, were you just writing things for yourself? Like, Toby's big dance number, things like that?
I've almost never written something for myself. Mindy's kind of the king of Toby, I think. But,
I thought you were going to say she just writes for herself.
Which is also good. I thought it was good too.
I think Greg's idea to get the writer to break down this wall as part of his concept, and
Which were you first? Which did you consider
writer.
yourself?
I've been a writer for a long time now, and this is the first acting I've ever done. And
it
I,
shows.
and I kind of showed up.
Toby's rules of acting.
Yeah.
Paul's
Oh,
rules
yeah,
of acting.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's mounted on the wall in the writer's room, his rules of acting. Is it Toby's or Paul's?
No, Paul's.
Rules of acting.
Go through them.
I can't remember all of them.
Come on.
There's
I think Rain
if you have a water bottle on the table, you have to bring it underneath the table because it might not be cleared.
Don't react.
Don't react to anything that's going on.
Don't laugh.
Don't laugh. Don't break. Don't laugh.
Continuity. Remember, you would have a coffee mug in one scene, and then the next.
That I was learning slowly. That wasn't even part of it. I was
That's
shocked.
dance class.
I was actually
I know.
shocked when Brian brought that up for the first time, like maybe middle of season 3. You have to look at the way you're sitting. He
And do
actually
the
taught me
same
that
thing?
after about 30 episodes.
You're an
for
artiste.
the
You can't be
first
worried
time.
about that. That's someone else's job. Somebody with a clipboard or something.
Hey.
He'd be drinking
No,
from a
that
cup
actually
and then
falls
eating a
out.
bagel. I'm like going back and forth.
That might be a good time for Dave to comment.
I have no comment.
Well, actually, it does bring up an interesting thing. It was such a naturalistic show with people kind of just, I mean, I know, because Kate and I have been friends for a million years. She's told me, like, there is a lot of computer solitaire seriously being played there. So there's a lot of people, I think, just living. I mean, does that present a lot of problems for you, or?
There's a whole thing on the set with
He's the
computers.
editor, by the way.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, yeah.
filling you guys
Sorry,
in.
Dave Rogers.
Extraordinary.
Oh, they got that in the intros.
I think Creed's character is the only one he plays solitaire. You can see it on his screen. And he's like, we're allowed to see his, everybody else, they call action, they have to, change their screens. But these guys will tell you on the set, it's fully functional with instant messaging and email and stuff like that, online gambling, I think. Stuff. But
And porn. Porn, he says
as
over
far
here.
as but the cast doing things like, they're pretty good. Matching, I'm always looking for takes where, if they do something, they have to, do it again the same way so I can cross between takes. And our show has a lot of improv in it, but I can't say enough about this cast. What you see on the air is 21:30. Our first assembly is like 38 minutes. So these are long shows, but they do a great job. Everybody, really just great.
Rain, the character that you played, Dwight, is your English analog. I don't know the actor's name.
Mackenzie Crook.
Mackenzie, yeah. Had you ever seen him before you were cast in this?
Unlike Steve, I watched every episode of the BBC show, and I tried to copy him as much because he was so friggin' brilliant. I just do a very bad job of imitating him.
See, I don't think you do.
Prism. And So that's how we ended up with
But
Dwight.
when you started out, was that not a daunting sort of task? Is that just a dumb
Yeah.
question? Yeah.
Oh, it was terrifying. He's so singular looking and odd in his own way. And it's like, I'm obviously a little bit singular looking and odd in my own way, but I needed to find a way to make it, come to life. But,
Yeah.
I've kind of joked about this in interviews and stuff before, but I really think for me, I was a theater actor for 10 years in New York before I did any TV or film or anything like that. And, I really think that for me, it really started with the haircut and picking the right glasses and kind of when the short sleeve shirt and the calculator watch and everything, I kind of feel like my grandmother could play Dwight. You know what I mean? She had the little flip and the thing, and anyone can do it. Try it, go home.
Jim and Jenna, how is it being sort of like the romantic engine of a sitcom? I mean, it would seem to have its pluses and minuses. Go.
Romantic engine.
Well, it's
Now
sort
I have
of
to
like,
go back to
are
work
they
and
or
be
aren't
stressed out
they?
tomorrow.
Well, you know what I mean? It's the are they or aren't they, that kind of real, like the promo department's dream come true. What did that feel like to have so much attention on that? And what did you end up getting out in the real world as it was going on?
I guess I could make a joke, but I can't because I'm not quick enough. But also, because, the truth is, I've said this 100 times, and it's absolutely true, unlike what other people have said, especially for Jenna and I think. It's all writers 100% all the time. I mean, these people committed to this relationship as being super dynamic in its own way and also extremely subtle in its own way. And, I just remember that one episode when we were on the booze cruise, and when I saw the episode and they had allowed that incredibly long pause when one character really wanted to say that he loved Pam and then he couldn't. I just thought from then on I have full and total trust in anything they have to do, because anybody who can take that big a risk, and they don't write for ratings and they don't write for drama and they don't write for what anybody wants to see, they write for what's real for the character. It's extremely brave, and it's just an incredibly place to be for us.
There you go.
And there's a lot of other romances that have come out on the show, too. There's, the love triangle of Angela and Dwight and Andy, and, the Ryan and Kelly, and
Michael and Ryan.
So I don't feel like we're like this lone engine. I think one of the neat things about the show is that they sort of investigate there's comedy, but then all these people are all striving for love and, connection, and that comes out a lot.
Ed,
What can I do for you, Andy Richter?
how was it coming into something that was already up and running like this?
I'll say for my part, it was very daunting because I was already a big fan of the show, and I was very anxious. I was very excited because I loved the show, but I was very nervous because I didn't know how I would fit into this kind of vibe. And very early on, like my second episode or something, and if you recall, I was introduced to the show in one of Jim's sort of storylines off at the Stanford branch. And I said, I was sort of opening up to John somehow about my anxiety and just sort of feeling like nervous about it. And he was like, come, dude, we're all here like to support you or something like.
It was better than that, but yeah.
Yeah, it was more, it was way more.
But still, I bet you said dude.
Dude. No, but it was something like we're a basket and you just feel like you can nestle into it or something. And I was like,
He was talking about a basket? I don't think.
yeah.
Anyway.
But it actually, it was such a nice sentiment and it was so genuine and it totally put me at ease. And then as I got more kind of entrenched in the show and I moved over to the Scranton office and kind of got to know more people, it was sort of I think it was nice to have a slow introduction too, because it didn't it wasn't overwhelming for me or anyone. So it was scary at first, and then ultimately amazing.
Angela, if I can include both you guys in this, you guys' characters tend to be kind of insane, a little bit. Do people kind of expect you to be your character out in the world?
I would say sometimes people are afraid to approach me, which is just so silly to me. But I realize they only see me as Angela Martin, and in real life I'm a little bit of a goofball. And usually then when they do come up and finally say hi, then I overshare and it's awkward. so, like I'll be at Target and someone's finally like, oh my gosh, it's you and it's nice to meet you. I'm like, oh really, how are you? Where'd you get those flip-flops? Are they on aisle 12? Because I didn't see them and I really want them and they have beads. What's going on? How are you? Here's my email. And then it's weird.
Jen,
Hi.
Jen Salata, who is a writer on the show, well, a producer. But you're right. Yeah. Is there a usual genesis for the ideas for each episode? Are they based on like a plot point, on a comedy bit, or do they come from different places?
I guess they can come from anywhere. I mean, it's like you can see there's like a unusual kind of quirk or something happen, in real life, and then you bring that in, and trying to think of an example. Any other writers help me?
Isn't that great when somebody asks you?
I don't know. I honestly don't know sometimes. I mean, I think the actors inspire a lot of ideas just through their characters and watching.
Anybody think of something that happened on set that became a script?
Sometimes we accidentally call Greg, because he's our boss as a writer, Michael. That will happen sometimes.
Yeah.
We'll do that, and it's so humiliating, and you feel terrible because what the connotations of what that means. But Greg used to do this thing where we'd get hot in the writer's room, and he'd try to take off his outer layer, his fleece, and he'd do that thing where he kind of pulled off all of his layers.
Right,
We'd
right.
see like his naked torso for a bit, and we were like, oh, this is so weird. Later, Michael and Pam, accidentally, when you said come into the office, you saw his penis in Fun Run. So we'll take an event that is just mildly awkward sometimes, and we'll exaggerate it to something that's like truly horrifying. I mean, that was sort of my favorite example of that.
You know what? I'd like to recreate that scene for you today.
Well, Brian, tell me what it was like to start out as one of the supporting characters, and as time went on, obviously taking more of the plot load. I mean, how
It's funny, I always thought of myself as the lead.
Of course.
I had seen all of the episodes of the British version and was so in love with it, and actually had just, I like Rain, again, had been doing theater for about 10 years and had just moved to Los Angeles about 3 months before The Office started. And I knew the British version, and I heard that NBC was going to do it, and I decided that that was the show that I was going to be on. And it's
getting scary and weird, frankly.
It's really weird. Greg and I have talked about this, but not for a long, long time. But I actually came in to read for the role of Stanley, but I had seen. And I was actually.
You guys probably are constantly getting cast in each other.
Yeah.
I know, it's the resemblance, uncanny.
Well, and I was a much better Stanley, but anyway, I was. I had seen the British version, and I knew what the American version was, and I had read, and I went in to see Allison Jones again, who was fantastic, and Phyllis, and they gave me Stanley, and I knew that if I was going to get cast in the show, that it was going to be as the Kevin character. So I went in and read the role of Stanley like how I saw Kevin, and was lucky enough that they saw something in that too.
Right.
So they had me come back. Yeah. Phyllis, who was, well, go ahead. You.
I was the casting associate on the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
They didn't
Beginning
tell
of all this.
No, they don't tell me.
Rain was actually the first person to audition, I believe, for producers.
And you said no.
I actually was being auditioned for the show and didn't know it. I was a casting associate, and I actually was reading with John and some other guy that was auditioning for Dwight, who didn't make it. And and I had no idea, but I believe, I don't know where did
Well,
I
you had
germinate?
read with me.
In the early
Yeah, I read
screen
with you.
tests, you read the character of Dwight
I did.
in scenes with John. And
I did such a great job.
Oh, that's why you didn't want him.
yeah.
I'll do this.
I was going for Dwight.
no, I think
You would have
I
made
mean,
an excellent Dwight.
Thank you.
I think that as soon as we realized that was even a possibility, everybody was very excited by it. But I think Ken Kwapis was the one
That he actually
thought
thought.
up the idea first. Yeah.
Randall Einhorn is the director of photography on the show. Now, this show is about kind of the mundane nature of office life. I mean, it's obviously has its hills and valleys comedically, but at its root, it's about, the mundane nature. Is it hard to make a mundane themed show pretty?
I enjoy observing people, and I think it's a very just kind of sit back and pick it off type of thing, and looking for the beauty in such a mundane place. That being said, we don't really strive to make the office look beautiful, because I think it should be about that place, which is a little oppressive and mundane, but there is some beauty that happens there, and that's between the people.
Oscar, hi.
Hi, Andy.
You have the odd distinction of being the one openly gay character in the show.
Which, by the way, did not come from anything real that may or may not have happened.
All right.
Totally fabricated by Mr. Daniels. I don't know.
You gotta, that whole protest too much thing, you gotta be careful with that.
Touche.
Now, does that overlap into real life ever? I mean, do you find yourself,
Fellas come up and kiss me, and then they ask. They kiss me right in the mouth, and are you? I'm like, I'm not gay. I just play it, but thank you. No, it doesn't. People get it. They know we're characters, and yeah, it's
now. At what point in the run of the show did you know?
The third, huh?
The third. No, did you find out that in fact your character was gay, and had you been playing him gay all along?
I was just playing him regular, and I felt I was a little bit nervous about it, and John Krasinski came up and he said, "Orale ese, you're a little piece of candy, and we're a piñata surrounding." I was just playing him regular, and then there was a rumor. People were like, "They're gonna make the character gay," and I'm like, "That's ridiculous. I think the writers think I'm gay. I think they do." Jen?
No.
I swear to God, there was a rumor that they're gonna make him gay, and then the script, the physical script, was there, where I became gay, and then Greg Daniels comes up to me and goes, "Oscar,
come here."
Yeah, he takes me aside, and we lean on the desk, and he's like, "Do you mind if we make your character gay?" I'm like, "You wrote the script already."
Well, you think he's gonna not write it and ask you first?
But yeah, I don't care. I'm like, yeah, it's great. And it was funny because he was, I don't know if you remember, but he was very anxious about the script. You kept asking me, is it a good script? And I'm like, it's not a good script. It's a great script. It's a great script. And yeah, and that's it. And then they made him gay. And then I had to like not be gay because you're right, I was playing him already as a person. So I'm like, it's just the same person.
Kate, tell me about how your character Meredith, it obviously started out smaller, and then you found out more and more about Meredith, and tell me about your discovering her, what that was like for you.
It's funny. I found out I was gonna flash Michael and be topless basically like 2 days before it happened. So I didn't have time to get in shape or anything. Just I want to look good, but
Is there really a getting in shape that you can do for your breasts?
Well, it was more like getting your back in shape.
Oh, all
I sort
right.
of felt like fat back. I don't know. But that was kind of a major shock to the system. But it's like by the third, I've been now topless 3 times, and now the last time was with Harold Ramis. Why thank you so much. What? The last time Harold Ramis was directing it, and I was really close to him because it was during a Talking Head. And by that time, I'm like, no, we got to get the side of the boob, otherwise the joke is lost. Can we just, I'm like, suddenly I'm an expert at how to be topless. It's so ridiculous. But what I thought was interesting is like, last season, sort of. Last season, I got like very accident prone, and when I heard I was getting hit by a car, I was actually nervous. That I actually asked if I was going to make it because I didn't know. And I don't know. I think getting hit by a car was kind of the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't know.
Creed, do you always understand what your character is doing? Because there's times when you do stuff and I have no idea what it's about.
I'd like to set this straight. First of all, I'm actually in my late 40s. This makeup is like, I'm like the Estelle Getty of these people here. And when this show finally runs, I will be like 50 years old.
Right.
Be able to go on from
Outlive them all.
And I am British.
Uh-huh.
And I had to work very hard to lose the accent.
Sure.
So, but no, Creed doesn't have a clue what's going on. I don't have a clue what's going on.
Like a couple episodes ago, he left the blood van, obviously shoving a bag of blood into his pocket.
Yes.
What was he going to do with that?
Pudding.
Okay. Was it his blood?
It was everybody's blood, Actually, Randall,
That was Randall's idea.
Well, I came under Randall. I said, hey, Creed's got to steal something. And he said, I got it covered. You're going to steal a bag of blood. And I said, great. Great. That's how it just boom.
Leslie or Les or what do you prefer, Leslie? Mm-hmm. As the kind of the complaint. Well, no, as the complainer of.
No.
Well,
Stanley doesn't complain. He's just thoroughly, perpetually.
But Stanley's always there, front and center, with the question about.
Stanley is
the bottom line of what the worst possible scenario.
He's a conscience. He's a sharpshooter. He's just
there
serving his time in the trenches until he can be liberated by retirement. So.
All right. Well, that blows the question. Because I was just going to say, like, do you ever sort of get worried that that the writing staff views you as someone who's just too good at complaining?
No, they've all worked in corporate America. They know what it's like. So there's lots of surly yet to come.
Have you worked in corporate America?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. So is this drawing on a lot of
insanity? You get to bring all of that pathology and actually act it out and get a paycheck for it.
Yeah.
Wonderfully cathartic.
If the show were to come out today, would it have the possibility of staying on the air?
Well, you know what? Frankly, and Greg was talking about casting and assembling all of these people. I give him so much credit for I do. I mean, I think it all starts with him, and I think it speaks to the success of the show that 5 years in, we all really like each other a lot, and not just cast, but crew. Everybody gets along incredibly well. And that started with Greg. Greg knew to choose not only, are you embarrassed?
Keep it up, please.
Well,
Greg
Greg knew to choose people not only based on how he thought they would be on the show, but I think also the dynamic that they would work together personally. It's such an overused and cliche kind of thing to say, but it does feel like a family, and we do look forward to seeing each other every day. So I think that comes through as well, and I think that helps in the work. That helps with the writing because the writers and the actors are all friends as well, and we understand each other to a certain extent.
Where is the show going? I mean, what can we look forward to? Syndication? That's right, 100 episodes, right?
I believe we'll see Holly again in the season finale. Michael will meet up with Holly. Variety of standard television obstacles.
People get what they want sometimes and not other times.
Sometimes not.
Wow. Way to sell it, dude. I know. It's a lousy question. Like, where do you see it going? It's a BS question from a BS moderator. Frankly. Oh no! Stop it!
We have a fun.
But actually, that is. we have hit our allotted time. I'd like to thank you all for coming out, and I'd like to thank you all for being here and for having me do this. And keep making such a wonderful, wonderful show. There aren't enough of them on the air, and it's a fantastic place to stop and rest.
Makes it sound like a
Thank you very much.